Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage and relationship coaching, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one sessions in both French or English, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoach.drdanamzallag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our third episode of season 27, a very special guest and author of How to Find Joy in a Capitalistic Hellscape, Miss Elsie Gilmore. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Elsie, the floor is yours.
Hey, Dan, thanks so much for having me on today. My name is Elsie Gilmore, and my book, How to Find Joy in a Capitalist Hellscape, came out last year. I grew up in the beautiful state of Vermont. I've actually been a web developer for the past couple decades, among other things. And, in the past 5 years or so, we've been dealing with so much negativity in our country. And it just tears me apart to see people fighting with their neighbors and not really listening and not being very joyful. And so I wrote this book to help people in these really challenging times to try to focus on finding joy and not fighting with each other.
Well, this is definitely a very admirable goal to be able to make to achieve that. But unfortunately, we are in a society that it's all about feeling that if I don't do it myself, someone else will get richer, someone else will get more popular, someone else will get this fortune and glory. So it's becoming a very selfish society here, Elsie. So the thing is that with social media and how we compare our lives to others, especially in the fake environment of social media, how can we circumvent that, that idea of wanting to make it happen the way you claim it to happen?
Well, definitely, I think comparing ourselves to other people, especially based on their social media posts, is very silly because a lot of people not only post the best things about their life, but a lot of times those things probably aren't even accurate and they've been glamorized. And so you really can't tell what someone's life is like unless you really know them. And so spending our time being jealous or envious or comparing ourselves to other people is a definite way to remove joy from your life because we're all different and we all started out at different places and we all have different opportunities. So we're never going to live up to other people's lives, but we can find joy in our life and not care about any of that stuff.
So
Um,
do you think that the title of the book should have been How to Find Joy in a Social Media Hellscape versus
well,
Capitalistic?
that's a piece of it, but social media even is a product of capitalism, right? It
Yes.
is a it, Meta is a company that owns two of the biggest social media companies, and they probably want us to be jealous of people and they want us to have emotions about posts so that we will keep scrolling through Facebook and Instagram and buy things that are being advertised on it. So, in many ways, capitalists are compelling us to keep looking at other people's posts, which might make us feel jealous or angry.
Hmm. So is it the best way to avoid or to be able to reach or to find joy, that is, Elsie, is to detach yourself completely from social media and to start living a real life versus a fake one?
Well, I think social media is okay if you have the willpower to use it in the most beneficial ways. I personally have friends all around the world that I like to keep up with on social media. So if you want to do that, you have to cultivate the willpower to not spend too much time on there, and especially reading the comments of articles that might have been written to again create emotions in you, mostly of rage or anger. So if you're gonna, I think you can use it responsibly, and it's good to cultivate the willpower to do that.
So overall, so the nature of the book, the reason why you wrote it, Elsie, was it to be able to kind of like bring people back to another form of reality? Because again, if we look at the movies such as The Matrix, where we all live a life in simulation, do you feel that this is something that it detach yourself from that kind of life, from that kind of order?
So definitely one thing I think that is so important right now is that we don't remove all the people from our lives, right? And so being on social media, you feel like you're kind of connected, but you can't connect with people on social media the way you can in real life. So yes, I was even having a conversation this morning over coffee. I just saw an article about, I think it's a chain of gas stations. Instead of having a cashier, a human cashier, they're going to have a cashier on a video screen who's in the Philippines, who's going to, I guess, answer questions or talk to you while you're checking out. So this whole, like, starting a long time ago, the people have been removed from our lives, starting with like the ATM machine. So you don't have to go in and get money from a cashier. You can just do it outside by yourself. And then self checkouts. You can go to a store and not see another human. You can check out without any human interaction. So I definitely think this move toward removing all the humans from our lives is very detrimental, and we need to try very hard to keep human interaction as part of our lives.
But now that we have AI coming into the equation here, Elsie, isn't
Yeah,
that going to worsen the situation? Because now it's not
yes.
just the fact that we're not interacting with humans anymore, but the robots or the AI is taking jobs from people, which will make them, unfortunately, be in a worse economic position.
And it's not even just that, it's that people are replacing friendships with quote unquote relationships with AI chatbots.
Yes.
And there have been a couple articles recently where teenage children have been confiding in chatbots and have then taken their own life, even though they kind of talked about it first with the chatbot. And the chatbot is supposed to theoretically stop talking to them and direct them to services like a suicide hotline. But several teenagers have taken their own lives after kind of being encouraged by these chatbots. So that's the obviously extreme example, but we definitely can't there's already enough isolation in the world. We cannot replace friendships with this kind of chatbot relationship. It makes me so incredibly sad.
Well, it is sad actually, Elsie. And the thing is that as we move on towards, I would say, a more technological world or century, do you feel that there's just gonna be there's no way turning back? I mean, there's no way for us or humans to be able to go back to the 1950s or whatever it is. It's like it's not really
Yeah,
benefiting anyone here.
yeah. I mean, the biggest problem is that AI is driven by billionaires, and I don't even know if it's making them any money, but they are forcing us basically to have it in almost all the software we use now. Um, I'm not even sure if you can turn it off in all of them, but like when you do a Google search now, you get a summary, an AI summary.
Yes.
And as I'm sure you know, the computing power needed to run all of this AI is enormous and very detrimental to the environment. So that's a whole other aspect of it. But I don't think AI is driven by human desire. I think it's driven by these billionaires who own these AI companies who want to force it on us.
And also it's interesting that you say that, Elsie, because even like in the field of mental health, we have those AI to say, hey, I'm dealing with this and this and this, and the AI chat box will give them a diagnosis based on the DSM-5, because it's just basically easy to upload all the symptoms and all the diagnosis and the finding what mental health problem you have, either borderline personality or bipolar or dissociative
Mhm.
disorder. So now it's somewhat taking the place of a therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist, but the only thing is it cannot prescribe any medication. But here's where the problem is that talk therapy comes from or psychotherapy, that is, comes from interacting with another human being, where the human will be able to give you some things to think about for you to be able to reformulate a better plan and find ways to be able to achieve your goals. AI cannot achieve that because it has to have some form of human interaction to be able to allow you to think about the way that you process information. So AI does have its limit. Now, the question is, again, AI is driven by billionaires, as you mentioned. They all uploading information online into a huge database. So when you ask question, AI will respond based on what was created by humans. But the reality is that how can we not allow us depending too much on something that doesn't have really a human interaction with?
Well, I agree. And one of the big problems that's been discussed about AI is that AI is a predictive, it predicts what it thinks based on all of what's been put into it, what it should say next. And so depending on where it's getting all of its source material,
Yes.
it could be accurate or it could not be accurate. And the thing that will happen, and I feel like it's already starting to happen, is that AI will start to use other AI generated data in itself, which was regurgitated. So it's kind of like making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy.
Yes,
And
I was thinking about that. You're
yeah,
right.
and eventually the last photocopy is blurry and you can't read it. And so that's the kind of data that will come out of AI because it will just keep eating itself, basically.
So okay, so what you're saying here, LC, is that if it takes information from another AI source, and that AI source will take information from the other AI side, so we have several degree of separation between the real question and the real answer. So then
Yes.
it will just be interpreting some interpretation.
Yes, it's like with that game you play when you're a kid where someone whispers something in your ear and then
Yes,
you
yeah, the
repeat it to the
train.
next person.
Exactly. Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
And then at the end, the person says what they heard, and it's completely different than what the first person said.
Completely, you're right. So it's just, like I said, it's just
Yeah.
reinterpreting what was said from the one source to the other, but they should have at least some commonalities. I mean, if someone talks about borderline personality and the symptoms, I think all AI will have the same symptoms to share to the person who are seeking it.
But will that AI have access to any other information? Will it only be able to use the DSM to give a diagnosis, or will it also be able to scour the internet where there's tons of unreliable information?
Well, yes, that's a good point. You're right. So, okay, so among all this, when we talk about finding joy, despite all the challenges that people face on a day-to-day basis, and the difficulties in relationship and work and family obligation and financials and so on and so forth, what is the best strategy that you suggest to our listeners on how to find that joy?
Well, I think first off, people have to realize that joy and happiness are not just things that accidentally appear. You have to be happy on purpose. Um, you have to realize that you can find happiness and joy, that it doesn't have to just be there because it's not always going to just be there. So, as I said earlier, I think making sure you have good people in your life is one of the most important things. So, even if you don't have a lot of close family, you have to create your family. You have to become part of your community, get involved with local things so that you can have your chosen family, because having people you can rely on and people you can find joy with is going to be a huge key to this process. And also, I think one thing that people don't realize is you don't have to be happy 100% of the time to be happy, because it's actually not normal to be happy 100% of the
I
time.
agree.
So it's normal to get mad sometimes or to be sad sometimes, as long as you know the general gist is that you're happy.
But then again, something that a lot of people say, happiness is very subjective, Miss Elsie. So
Sure.
is that what makes, okay, so someone who's dealing with physical illnesses, if you ask them what will make you happy, chances are they're not going to say, I need to have $1 million in my bank. They'll say,
Right.
I like to regain my health. Someone who's, who's homeless on the street, if you tell them, hey, what will make you happy? Well, I'd like to have $1 million. Someone who is, whatever issue you're dealing at that given moment. That's why happiness is very fleeting. It will only occur at a specific moment in time where you are dealing with like something that you're seeking, like either money or health or friendship or relationship or love, whatever it is. It's at this given moment that your happiness changes.
And that's why I like to say joy instead of happiness, because joy, I think, is something you find in moments. And I think if you are like have chronic pain, but there isn't anything to do about that chronic pain right now, then I think it's even more important that you're able to find moments of joy in your daily life, because you can't just say, I'm going to wait to find joy when this happens, or I'm going to wait to find it when this happens, because you don't know when those things are going to happen. So you have to tell yourself that you're going to have joy, some pieces of joy, no matter what your circumstances are.
So basically being mindful about the joy that you are seeking. So it's only in the moment and not tomorrow, because tomorrow is never guaranteed. And whatever the, issue you dealt with in the past has already happened. So there's no need to be able to deal with, or struggling with past memories or past pain. So basically it's the joy is in the moment. And that's why happiness.
Because you're still trying to obviously get rid of your pain or fix your situation, whatever it is, but you can't just be miserable the whole time, because it'll be easier for you to fix that situation if you can do something, go for a walk, pet your cat, any little things that like give you that feeling of joy, even for a couple minutes.
I see. So, I mean, this is all great in terms of, in theory, because there's millions of books written about happiness, about joy, about mindfulness. I mean, read The Power of Now from Eckhart Tolle, which exactly on how to be able to really live today and not be anxious about tomorrow or depressed about the past. And the thing is that when we look at all this in a theoretical environment, yes, all this is really great. We just read it. How many people go to seminars about the how-tos on how to be happy and so on and so forth, and then they come back, they're happy for the next 10 days, and they go back to being miserable. Because is happiness sustainable? That's the main question. And as you said, we cannot be happy all the time. So the moment that we are feeling down, we have to look forward to the moment that we're going to feel up, and vice
Well,
versa.
and that's why I say that it's a choice. You have to practice it. You have to do it. Like if you want to be happy or have joy, there are always things you can do to achieve that. Even just, I remember one time I got out of a very difficult relationship, and every day for 6 months, I watched only Comedy Central.
Okay.
Because even though I felt really terrible, I knew that if I watched enough comedy, I would eventually feel better. So, I wanted to feel better. And so I did the thing that I thought would make me feel better.
You know what you just said, Elsie, reminded me of a story that was on Oprah Winfrey when she had her show. It was a woman that was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And the doctor said, you know what, you could either go to hospice or go and to be able to be with your family for the remaining days or month that you have to live.
Mm-hmm.
The brother of that woman was a stand-up comedian, and he told her, you know what, for the remaining time, why don't you come with me? I'll do my tour and come to every of my comedy event and all the other comedians that's going to be there. I want you to be able to live a good rest of your life with us. This is what she did. She went, she laughed and watched funny shows and attended many comedy show. She was cured from cancer.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Because the thing
That's
is, because of
incredible.
laughter, because of her being joy, instead of staying in her misery and waiting
Uh-huh.
the imminent death to occur, she went to live her life, and her mindset, her attitude change, her love for living were amplified. And because of that, there was no more residue of cancer cells in her body.
That's amazing.
Yes. So again, what you said, it just reminded me of the story, which is incredible on how the body can heal itself. The
Hmm.
mental, the brain, and the mind can really find a way to be able to rejuvenate and find ways to be able to get away from sickness. But the thing is that unfortunately, people don't have that auxiliary option to be able to make this happen. Not every brother is a stand-up comedian to be able to go and attend.
No,
The thing is
right.
that,
But like me, you can always, find comedies but
yes,
you have to, I do think the problem people probably have is you have to believe that there are ways to find joy no matter how bad your situation is.
I agree.
And I'm sure not everyone believes that. And it's not going to cure everyone's cancer, but it would improve your quality of life, um, so that might help you focus on the issues that you have that you're trying to improve.
I agree. And this is definitely something that a lot of people have to focus on. And let's put aside the materialistic achievement or goals that we set ourselves. I'm not saying that you should not have aspiring goals to be able to get whatever you want in life, abundance, and so on and so forth. But let's
Mm-hmm.
not make this a priority. Because again,
Yeah.
look at Steve Jobs when he was 56 and he had the prostate cancer. And the thing is that there's no way that there was no way, even with his money, even with the best treatment, that saved him.
Yeah.
I think it was pancreatic cancer, not prostate. I'm sorry, pancreatic cancer. So the reality behind it is that we may just live our life focusing on when I become this, I'll be able to buy this and live my life. No, live it today because nothing is guaranteed tomorrow. And this is what a lot of people make the mistake. They think that they will have the energy until the day they die. But the reality is that there's always going to be something in between that comes and that will halt your present and future. And people need to really grasp the importance of not putting too much attention on things or material stuff to be able to impress others that you don't give a rat's ass about.
Well, and it's kind of like work-life balance. We live in a time where we've got this hustle culture, and part of it is necessary because people can't afford to live, but other people are just hustling because they just want to get ahead. But they do it by throwing away years of their lives doing nothing but work.
Yes. But just look at what's going on now with the tiny home movement. I mean, now we see it's growing exponentially because people don't feel that they need to live in 10,000 square foot mansions anymore. Now for them, 600 square feet, 700, it meets the need and that's it. And they're happy about that. So you don't need to be able to show or impress others that you don't really care about. Impress yourself,
Well,
live a quality
yeah,
life first.
yeah, and I think people are realizing that having all that stuff doesn't make them happier.
No, it does not. Well, fortunately, in a way, but unfortunately for them, because they keep running on the treadmill, Elsie,
Yeah.
and they never go really much of anywhere because their happiness level does not increase. Yeah, you may have additional, zeros in your bank account or, whatever it is, and you may be able to buy more vehicles or more cars. But for what? Can you drive three or four vehicles at the same time? No. So what is the point to have all those assets? And they're just those assets will eventually become liabilities.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people obviously need money and they need money for the future. Um, but no, I don't think it should happen at the expense of the present, of living in the present.
Yes. So what is are the other core points that you have in your book? I mean, beside living in a moment, beside like relationship with others or developing those relationships, is there any other thing that actually will want people to, find a way to get that book?
Yeah, so one of the chapters is on spirituality because I think believing in something
Mhm.
uh, helps people to be happy. And some people are religious, but you don't have to be religious to believe in something bigger than yourself.
Mhm.
So I think that helps people. And to go along with that, spending time in nature, I think, is highly underrated. I mean, when people do spend time in nature, not only is it relaxing and grounding, but it helps people care about saving that. Because we can't actually survive as a species if nature goes away. So I think staying connected to that on a deep level
Mhm.
is important for our happiness and survival. Um, I think going along with spirituality, which does include spending time in nature, is having rituals or making rituals um, that, whether it's meditating or going for a long walk in the woods or something that is your way to connect with a higher source.
So, okay, so then, doing all of those exercises, either breathing exercise, meditation, nature walks, hiking, climbing, whatever it is, whatever really suits everyone's need. But what can they do when they're at home? Because, again, a lot of people, post-pandemic era, we have seen a lot of people being isolated when we were forced to stay in home. Others that still have their, they could still work remote. Is there other way that they could do when they're at home to be able to kind of like either
So,
detach themselves from whatever things that they're doing or changing their mindset or doing something different so they could find different results?
so meditation is definitely something you can do at home. Yoga is something you can do at home to ground yourself. I just learned this chant recently from a book I read. It's called Kirtan Kriya, and it's a chant that you do with mudra finger positions. And
Okay.
so you're chanting and moving your fingers at the same time, and you really have to concentrate on it. So it's very meditative. So anything like that is something that you can do at home.
Excellent. And so if you could tell people, our listeners, where can they find your book, Elsie?
So they can find my book firstly on my website, which is elsiegilmore.com, but
Mhm.
they can also find it on Amazon and bookshop.org. They can probably order it from their local bookshop, which is preferred, or pretty much any place that you buy books online. It's on Kobo. Yeah, it's in lots of places.
And when it comes to if someone wants to be able to reach out to you in terms of getting a more practical one-on-one coaching, is that something that you offer?
Um, I can for sure. I would love to offer that to someone. I have not done that in the past, but I'm more than open to it.
Okay, because what you read in a book versus how you interact with the author verbally and through communication, I think the information will sink in to the subconscious mind a little bit better than just having to read it. Because again, there's so many books
Absolutely.
out there that talks about something very, very similar. And how do we differentiate ourselves from all the other authors? So sometimes it's always important to be able to have some verbal communication with those who are interested in learning more.
Sure, absolutely. They could contact me through my website again, elsiegilmore.com. I'm also on Instagram at Elsie Gilmore Author.
Beautiful, beautiful, Elsie. Well, on that note, that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. And again, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible knowledge in helping others finding joy in life. Now, we hope
Thanks so
you
much.
all enjoyed today's episode. I'm also very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 27 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories just like the one that you listened to today. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Even in the chaos of a capitalistic hellscape, joy is an act of quiet rebellion. Find it in the stolen moments, sunlight on your face, laughter with a friend, music that moves your soul. You are not your productivity. Rest is resistance. Creating, loving, dreaming. These are all radical acts when the world tells you to consume and comply. Seek community. not competition. Find purpose in connection, not perfection. Let your joy be small, defiant, and fiercely your own. That's how you stay human. My name is Dr. Dan Amzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.